In today's video, we're going to be talking about diseases and conditions that are caused by insulin resistance. And buckle up because there are a lot of them. Insulin resistance is a condition that is extremely widespread, but unfortunately, it often goes undiagnosed until it manifests as other diseases. And knowing that you're insulin resistant is a bit of a double-edged sword. On one hand, it can be frustrating to learn that you are insulin resistant and that it is the source of a lot of the symptoms and side effects you've been struggling with. But on the other hand, it can be really empowering because instead of using band-aid fixes to address symptoms, you can address the root cause and actually reverse insulin resistance and the diseases it is causing. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about the link between insulin resistance and 7 diseases and conditions, and what you can do if you are insulin resistant to prevent them. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Kate. I'm a health coach and I post videos on a high-fat, nutrient-dense way of eating. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, feel free to share, and make sure to subscribe. And make sure to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and now TikTok, where I share new posts every single day. Today's video is sponsored by 𝘾𝙊𝙼𝙍𝙬, a genetics testing and analysis company that gives you personalized health recommendations based on your genes. If you want to check them out, you can head to healthcoachkate.com/selfdecode. We're going to start off today talking about 7 conditions and diseases that are caused by insulin resistance. And then we will talk about how to know if you are at a greater risk of developing these diseases. And we'll finish off with some easy steps you can take for prevention. So make sure to stick around until the end. Number 1, type 2 diabetes. The relationship between insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes is probably the most straightforward. Insulin is a hormone responsible for getting excess sugar from our blood to our cells. It acts as a key, signaling your cells to let the glucose in. When you become insulin resistant, however, your cells become overwhelmed and they stop responding to the actions of insulin. As a result, your pancreas will release more insulin because it sees that your blood sugar is still high. And this extra insulin is enough to keep blood sugar in check for a while, for years even. But eventually your pancreas will no longer be able to keep up. And that's when you're going to start to see your fasting blood sugar rise. When this happens, you're going to be diagnosed with prediabetes and eventually type 2 diabetes. Number 2, metabolic syndrome. Okay, I said that the relationship between insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes was probably the most straightforward, but I take that back. I think the relationship between insulin resistance and metabolic syndrome is even more so. Metabolic syndrome is diagnosed by having 3 out of 5 main symptoms: a large waist circumference, high fasting blood sugar, high blood pressure, low HDL cholesterol, and high triglycerides, all of which are directly caused by insulin resistance. Metabolic syndrome and insulin resistance are the exact same thing. Another name for metabolic syndrome is literally insulin resistance syndrome. Number 3, heart disease. Insulin resistance is highly associated with an increased risk of cardiovascular disease. It is thought that the high levels of circulating insulin cause chronic inflammation, as well as damage to the blood vessels directly. And we see this relationship pretty clearly with type 2 diabetes and heart disease. Over 30% of those with type 2 diabetes also have cardiovascular disease. Number 4, polycystic ovarian syndrome. Next up is PCOS, a condition that affects 1 in 10 women worldwide and is the number 1 cause of infertility. And it is directly related to insulin resistance. To be diagnosed with PCOS, you have to have 2 out of 3 main symptoms: high testosterone, an irregular period, and ovarian cysts. All 3 of these symptoms are a result of high insulin levels. High circulating insulin levels stop testosterone from being converted to estrogen, leaving you with high testosterone as a result. And this is symptom number 1. And we need this spike in estrogen each month in order to ovulate. So no spike means no ovulation and no period, which is symptom number 2. And because we didn't ovulate, the egg remains in our ovaries and it can become a cyst. Symptom number 3. And I know that a lot of women with PCOS think that there is nothing they can do about it but manage symptoms, and that's simply not true. If you address insulin resistance and work to reverse it, PCOS will reverse as well. I won't talk too much about PCOS specifically in this video, but I have another video with specific tips for PCOS, which I'll link above if you want to know more. Number 5, obesity. Now, the relationship between insulin resistance and obesity is actually a bit more complex than you might assume. It isn't entirely clear whether insulin resistance or obesity come first. While the two often go hand in hand, it is possible to be insulin resistant without being obese, and it's possible to be obese without being insulin resistant. With that being said, both do contribute to one another, which leads to a vicious cycle where both get progressively worse. Now, before we get into the final 2 diseases associated with insulin resistance and what you can do to prevent them, I'm going to take a quick moment to tell you about today's sponsor, 𝘾𝙾𝘾𝙍, and how you can use their services to find out if you are at a greater risk of insulin resistance and the associated diseases. 𝘾𝙾𝘾𝙍 is a genetics testing and analysis company that gives you personalized health recommendations based on your genes. Our DNA can tell us a lot about our individual health and our risk for certain diseases and conditions. However, accessing and interpreting this data isn't easy. And that is where 𝘾𝙾𝘾𝙍 comes in. 𝘾𝙾𝙾𝘾𝙍 makes it easy to identify if you carry the genes associated with an increased risk of insulin resistance and other diseases and conditions as well. Now, one gene that I wanted to highlight today is the TNF gene. This gene plays an important role in glucose metabolism and weight control. One variant of this gene is associated with body fat and obesity, and if you carry this variant, you are at a greater risk. When it comes to the TNF gene, mine is thankfully not associated with obesity. Their wellness reports make it easy to interpret your results and provide evidence-based recommendations based on your DNA. Some of the genes associated with a higher risk of insulin resistance include TCF7L2, FTO, PPARG, KCNJ11, SLC30A8. If you want to check out 𝘾𝙾𝘾𝙍 and find out what your DNA can tell you about your health, you can click the link in the description box down below or head to healthcoachkate.com/𝘾𝙾𝘾𝙍. And 𝘾𝙾𝘾𝙍 also has an online lab shop where you can order tests such as fasting blood sugar and insulin straight to your door. The lab tests are only available in the United States, but their DNA testing and analysis is available worldwide. And 𝘾𝙾𝘾𝙍 members save 50% off lab tests. And one question that I am often asked about when it comes to 𝘾𝙾𝘾𝙍 is, do they share or sell your data? And the answer is no. They will never give your data to any third-party company, so you can feel confident using their services. Thank you again to 𝘾𝙾𝘾𝙍 for sponsoring this video, and once again, the link is going to be in the description box down below. Number 6, non-alcoholic fatty liver. This is when excess fat is stored around your liver, and it can lead to more serious issues down the line. And this fat accumulation is assumed to be caused by high insulin levels. Number 7, Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease is sometimes referred to as type 3 diabetes, and that alone should signify the connection. It is called this because insulin dysregulation in the brain is thought to cause dementia. A large meta-analysis found that those with type 2 diabetes were 60% more likely to develop dementia than those without it. And those are 7 diseases and conditions that are caused by insulin resistance. Now, I will say there are a lot more. Insulin resistance really is at the root of most modern day illnesses. But what can you do if you know you have insulin resistance, or at least you think you do, and you don't want it to progress to any of these diseases? Well, the key to reversing insulin resistance and preventing these diseases is keeping your insulin low. If you can reduce your need and your production of insulin within your body, this is going to help your cells to become more sensitive to insulin again. You can do this in a few different ways, but diet really is key here, and eating a low-carb diet specifically can be extremely effective, because fewer carbs in your diet means there is going to be less spikes in your blood sugar and less of a need for insulin. Now, I do have other really simple steps you can take in terms of diet and lifestyle for improving your insulin sensitivity and reversing insulin resistance. I don't want to ramble too much on in this video. I feel like it's gone on long enough. So I'm going to link a video above that goes over 11 of my top tips. And the more of these tips you can implement, the better. But even if you can only incorporate 1 or 2 of them, you're going to see some results. Because these are all small, actionable changes you can make. I had a comment on one of my TikToks saying they brought their fasting insulin down significantly in only 40 days. All they did was implement a few simple steps. I had a comment on one of my TikToks saying that they brought their insulin levels down significantly in only 40 days. All they did was make a few small changes. Trust me guys, these tips work. But anyways guys, that's all I have for you today. So thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comment section down below if you or anyone you know has any of these conditions or diseases we talked about today, and if you knew they were related to insulin resistance. I really appreciate all of your comments and I love chatting with you guys. I try to answer as many comments as I can right after I post the video. So if you want to chat, if you have a question, I'll try to get to it. I can't get to everyone, but I try to get to as many as I can. And those comments really support my channel, so thank you, thank you. And also before you leave, remember to check out Self-Decode. The link is going to be in the description box down below. If you guys did enjoy this video, you might also enjoy that video I mentioned about 11 steps you can take to reverse insulin resistance. You can find it right here. If you want to check out my most recent upload, you can find it right here. And if you want to work with me and check out my keto diet and carnivore diet coaching programs, you can click right here. Thanks guys, I'll see you next time. Bye.